All right. Once again, assuming that you're tuning in from that garbage Thursday night football game, the three guys that you feel neutral about are here to talk about sports. Again, myself, hi, I'm Ram. I'm joined by Peter as always, and Luke live out from our good friend Ash's basement. So I feel bad that Ash can't make the show, but he's going to hear Luke from right under his floorboards. Gentlemen, how are you doing tonight?
Doing better than Luke, I guess.
I see you use your get out of the basement free card for today's podcast.
Oh no, he just has. I'm just in a different part of the basement.
Why is your part of the basement so pink? Like, why is it so like? It looks like nicely painted. Like
you don't want to know what goes on in here.
I don't.
On the flip side, we've still got Yadier Molina in your part of the basement, which I appreciate.
He will never go. He will never go.
Somewhat of an eventful week going on in New York sports. I mean, the Jets went ahead and started their next leg of their eternal rebuild as they search for answers yet again for what might seem to be the 20th time in 20 years. The Giants still look pretty solid as to Jackson Dart and Cam Scattaboo, but they are probably moving towards another high draft pick as well. Knicks are figuring things out. Mets and Yankees offseason has finally started because the beloved LA Dodgers were able to pull off a Game 7 win against the Toronto Blue Jays. Yeah, I know that it's not the Toronto or LA Sports Hour, right? But I will say objectively, even though I was rooting for the Blue Jays, hell of a World Series, right, boys?
For everything I've heard, it's the best World Series anyone has ever seen. And I've only been alive for 29 years and probably have watched maybe 20 World Series. So
yeah,
it's definitely the best one I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't alive in '86, so I can't speak to that. That one probably would have edged it out for me. But this is the most watched World Series in a couple of years, I believe. And even in the NBA this year, we had a Game 7, and that also it got more views in the States. So it's impressive.
Yeah, by like a significant few million viewers as well, which is crazy because I mean, for everybody saying that baseball is dying, I also had a lot of fun with some people. This is not directed as Luke. Normally, I make fun of Yankees fans and include Luke, but there were some people saying, "Oh, this is going to be a boring World Series." Eat your fucking heart out, because that was honestly, I mean, I thought it was a lot of fun. I was very open about the fact that I didn't want the Dodgers to win, and they did. And at the same time, I can't be super mad at them because they're just investing in their team and they're figuring things out. They're going to probably do that again this offseason and add to their team. It's going to be a pain in the ass. Kudos to the Blue Jays for putting up the fight that they did, and the fact that most people didn't really pick them to go that far, myself included. I didn't know if they had that run in them until late in the playoffs where I started to feel the vibes. But we can only hope on the Mets and Yankees side that that's something that they're looking for. Because, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you look at the Blue Jays roster, I mean, it's funny, Luke, you and I talked a lot about the fact that we thought they may not go far in the playoffs because of their bullpen, right? And then we saw like the bullpen meltdowns kind of contributed to their losses in the World Series, and a part of my heart was like, damn it, I just needed one more week out of you. Just one more week where your bullpen on paper that shouldn't have been good figured it out. You know, Jeff Hoffman, who had pitched a million times this year, arm fatigue. It was just a bad outing. It's not even like it was mismanagement. I mean, these guys have bad outings. It's an interesting one. I mean, you look at the way their team was built, though, specifically in the sense of power of friendship again, just guys vibing with each other. Some of these guys are not going to come together. It really does speak to the fact that baseball is absolutely just a game of runs and getting hot at the right time. Because there were points in the year where the Blue Jays were doing well. Yes, they won the division and all that, but at the end of the day, like, it wasn't a matter of thinking that we went into the season thinking they were going to dominate the whole way. And so we've got a big offseason ahead. Bo Bichette on their side is already a free agent, might be a Yankee target for all we know. And we'll see what happens in terms of the baseball world if it gets underway really soon. We saw some Silver Sluggers get announced today. That is a fun thing. As of right now, the Yankees have no Silver Sluggers for the year, which is crazy because the Mets have two. But and that has nothing to do with the fact that the AL Silver Sluggers have not been announced yet. But we did see that Pete Alonso got his first career Silver Slugger at first base. He beat out Matt Olson and World Series hero Freddie Freeman. And Juan Soto continued a streak of getting another Silver Slugger, now winning a Silver Slugger with the Yankees and the Mets, and continuing to do so, I believe, for 6 straight years. right? Juan Soto MVP finalist and Silver Slugger winner, but didn't make the All-Star team. Welcome back, Francisco Lindor. Lindor was beat out for his Silver Slugger by Geraldo Perdomo, which I know some people in the Mets fan base were saying that they felt like it was a robbery. I got to be real with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with Perdomo winning this year. I think he had an outstanding year, all things intended for. You look at his statistical year, Lindor had some really up and down stretches. His overall numbers were outstanding. 30-30. I love the man. I rarely ever say bad things about him. But Perdomo was pretty much on all year. Outstanding year with the bat. Not at all bothered to see that coming out of the Diamondbacks. I think he deserved it. I'm glad Soto and Alonso got it. Peter, I'll go to you first because you're the Mets guy with me. I mean, how do you feel about the Alonso Silver Slugger thing? I know that it makes the contract going ahead harder, but I am objectively happy for the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I love Pete. It's way too early in the offseason for me to even venture the thoughts that he won't be on this team next year, or the upcoming year. But, there's not a Mets fan that isn't super excited for Pete. And even, Juan Soto, that's awesome. Obviously, the year as a total was a huge wet fart, but, Soto had put up MVP numbers. He was an MVP finalist. So, Ram, the last Mets game me and you went to the year, we started a Juan Soto MVP chant. It's great that these guys are winning. It sucks for Lindor that he didn't, but Ram, as you alluded to, he was very streaky. Another slow start, which seems to be his signature, which is a little annoying, but we love Lindor anyway. So, yeah, I mean, good for Pete and Juan, and yeah.
The best part is we're going to see the World Baseball Classic next year, and Lindor is going to tear it up for Team Puerto Rico. And as soon as the regular season starts, he's going to hit 187. And
maybe
get warm.
Maybe the World Baseball Classic will be a warm-up for him, and he'll be ready to go.
No, so I think I had this conversation a couple of years ago when the last World Baseball Classic came around and Lindor was captain of Team Puerto Rico at the time. He had a torrid World Baseball Classic. And I was trying to explain to a lot of people that, unfortunately, it's hard for a lot of certain flavor of fans to comprehend, but a lot of these guys give a shit about the World Baseball Classic. Caribbean people really do care about that kind of patriotic connection to their country. Speaking on behalf of cricket and baseball, and if you talk about American football or soccer, I mean, they give a shit in terms of this world stuff. So the idea that Puerto Rico is facing the DR, that's a World Series game for them in a way. And so these type of games of the World Baseball Classic, I do think they're going to be a lot of fun, but I fully expect him to bat 400 again throughout the month and then start off the year 187. And then the weather will get warm again and he'll be fine and he'll somehow finish the year 30-30 again with Juan Soto. That is to say, if the Mets haven't forgotten to steal bases after the departure of Anton Richardson, which I will get to. But Luke, I guess on your side, I mean, the full expectation is that Aaron Judge is going to win Silver Slugger, right? And I think Belger's in there as well. There's a few other stuff going on there. Judge is obviously a lock. I don't really see any way that he doesn't win it. But do you as an objective thing? I mean, would you have almost thought do you think there's a portion of the Mets fans that would kind of hope Pete Alonso didn't get the Silver Slugger because it would make it easier to sign him?
I don't think so. I don't think him winning a Silver Slugger is really going to impact the amount he's going to get. I think all the evaluators already know what Pete Alonso brings to the table. He's a slugging first baseman who has poor defensive metrics and poor base running ability, right? He projects out to probably be a DH within the next 2 to 3 years. You have to know what you're paying. You have to know what you're paying for. And him winning a Silver Slugger isn't going to make a difference on what guys are going to pay for Pete Alonso.
Hey man, don't disrespect the scoops. He's an elite scooper.
I'm a bar for bar with you on that, Luke. I think that I'm happy for him to win the Silver Slugger. It's first ever. Good for you. Part of a really strong career for the Mets so far. But it really doesn't make a difference as to his evaluation. I agree with you. It's a vanity title really for him, and we're happy. But
I think what sets him apart is being the Mets franchise record holder for most career home runs, and the fact that the three of us were there. I think that just makes his value explode off the charts.
I think that actually makes it harder for me to consider the fact that he might not be on the team next year because not only such a crowning moment for us as a group of friends,
Yeah.
but we don't get the Mets don't get many like nice moments these days. So like it was kind of fun to see that happen in person, see that we got to see the guy break the record and then add on to it within the same freaking game, to the point where they had to figure out a new graphic because they didn't anticipate that. It was a lot of fun.
And they ran out of fireworks.
I really, my heart would break to see him like join another team, especially one like the Yankees or an NL team that we might have to see like all the time. I really would hate it. And I also feel like the Mets have a history of when guys walk, they play really well against us. Like Daniel Murphy murdered the Mets for an extended period of time. And the crazy thing is he loved the Mets. I met him in London when I went over for the game last year, and he loves the Mets. He still does little commentary stuff for SNY and appearances for the Mets. He loved the Mets, but he murdered the Mets every time he faced them after. And it's kind of frustrating. It's like a Chipper Jones type of situation where Larry loved the Mets so much, but destroyed us. I don't know why we're all Massachusetts. But moving on from the Silver Slugger stuff real quick, but keeping it on baseball for a second. I sent you a comment I thought was amusing earlier, Luke, because Aaron Boone was talking about the state of the AL East, and he said that the Yankees are the least analytical team in the AL East when it comes to in-game decisions. And so here objectively, what a weird-ass comment to make, right? Because you're on the hot seat as Aaron Boone. People are questioning your decision-making, and you sort of had an out in a way. And you essentially went ahead and said, no, we're the least analytical team when it comes to these decisions. I'm proud of that. And essentially taking the heat for everything in terms of the decision-making. Very interesting way to go about it. Didn't expect it. I know that some of the old school, I don't know if I want to say knuckle draggers, but the more primitive Yankee fans, of course, were very pleased with this commentary, because they decide that analytics is the devil, and that, like seeing something like WOBA causes us to like commit a murder or something. It's horrible out there. But to those of us who were kind of caught up to the game, it was a bit of an interesting set of commentary to make, nor did I expect that, because the Yankees are a very analytically focused organization, to my understanding. And so that was confusing as hell. Right. And so I got to keep your mind on it.
Can you give me the exact quote again?
Aaron Boone says the Yankees are the least analytical team in the AL East when it comes to in-game decisions.
Yeah, that's totally true. Because there's no in-game decisions for the New York Yankees. Everything is already analyzed before the game even starts, and it's a script that he just sticks to. I'm not surprised by that statement. Like, there is so much truth in that statement. They literally sit up there in the front office, do their analytics before the game, and then they just hand it over to Aaron Boone, and he just reads from the script and plays the game out. There's no in-game analytics that are going on for the New York Yankees. Like, everything is already figured out before the game starts.
You do think it's that rigid? What you said? Sorry, go ahead.
No, what were you saying, Peter?
You said Aaron Boone's in the hot seat. I've been hearing that for like 3-4 years now. Aaron Boone ain't going anywhere. The Yankees front office love him. Like Luke said, they write the script. He does exactly what he says. And then even in interviews, he takes all the heat off them and puts it on himself. Like, they love him. He ain't going anywhere.
But do we really think that at the end of the day, I mean, it's that scripted out for everything? Does he really just follow this? I'm just legitimately asking. Do we really think? Because I know there was a little air of playfulness in your comment there, Luke, right? But like, does he legitimately all right, the analytics said we're going to Luke Weaver here, and it might be a situation that it doesn't make sense to go to Luke Weaver, but we're going to Luke Weaver here. Like, you watch the games obviously more than I do when it comes to the Yankees. I'm not going to.
There's definitely give and take. I mean, there were there were a lot of questionable bullpen decisions throughout the season. I mean, the one I picked to is pitching De Los Santos 2 days in a row. That didn't make, or I think it was actually three games in a row. Didn't make any sense, especially for a guy who spent a lot of time in the minors throughout the season. Isn't as seasoned as the rest of your bullpen. The number of times they went to Mark Leiter Jr. for absolutely no reason is insane. But I will say there has been some growth for Aaron Boone, that at least that I noticed this past season, where he let starting pitchers go a lot further than that Yankees fans in previous years would think Aaron Boone would let him go. I.e., Cam Schlittler in the wild card game. I don't think any Yankee fan I was talking to were like, okay, 5th inning, he did his job. Now Aaron Boone's just going to hand it off to the bullpen. And, you go up for the 6th. It's like, all right, he finished 6th. We're good. 7th, he let him pitch 8 innings. And I think he had a really good pulse on what Cam was doing. I saw it a couple times with Max Fried, with Rodon. And I saw it early in the season with some of the younger pitchers as well, too. So I think there's a little bit of growth from Aaron Boone's perspective, where he's kind of getting maybe a better feel for starting pitching, and giving them a little bit more leash. Where in previous years it was a snap decision to go right to the bullpen.
It was, I guess, why the whole thing is interesting to me is because if there's a serious amount of truth to the idea that the Yankees script as much of the game as possible, right? And he is just the human being that is making those decisions. Then does that essentially mean that he's not even a bad manager? The Yankees are just bad at analytics? Like, you get what I mean? Like, there's something about, like, you think back to in terms of how long he's managed his team, right? People were talking about, I saw in the comments, a lot of the conversation was about, so we brought back Nestor Cortez, like, to face Freddie Freeman in a situation like that. Like, was that an analytical decision or was that a Boone decision? Because at the end of the day, if they're letting him do that and they're letting him make these decisions, then yeah, he is showing growth and an understanding of the game. But if it's just analytical, then it might be that the analytical department is a little bunk at times and needs severe overhaul. It's tough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not trying to torment. I'm just trying to understand, because I understand what your point is in terms of saying, all right, that, like, it seems like it makes sense to you. They're not doing in-game analytics, but I feel like they have to be.
I mean, you think about what analytics are. It's all just probability, right?
Right.
You're rolling a dice and you're seeing what's happening, and you're hoping that you're, minimizing the number of sides that you have on that die, right? I fully believe that the Nestor Cortez game 1 of the World Series last year was 100% an Aaron Boone move. I don't think there was analytics in it, because if there was analytics, 100% would have said, put Tim Hill in against Freddie Freeman. But yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, we can sit here and nitpick every analytical, every decision that Aaron Boone's made. The analytics aren't going to get it right every time, right? Again, you're dealing in probabilities, and you're trying to make the decision that gives you the highest probability of winning. That doesn't mean that every decision is going to be correct, because your probability could be 60% and the 40% just comes to fruition. That happens, right? Like, the game is not just played on paper, right? Like, the game has to play out itself. So, yeah, we could sit here and nitpick the analytics, but you can't. I don't know. You can't fault the analytics when you made the World Series last year. You tied for the best record in the AL this season. I don't know. I don't think you can really fault the analytics for how the Yankees have played out the last couple seasons.
No, that's fair. Peter, do you have anything to add on the Boone situation, the analytical thing, or do you want to move on because it's Aaron Boone?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can move on. I feel like we're just beating the Aaron Boone dead horse.
Well, can I just say one thing to Peter's comment too? The front office loves Aaron Boone, and I totally agree with that statement. Yankees fans do not like Aaron Boone, and I think that's basically universal at this point. But we can kind of choke it down because, okay, we're making the playoffs consistently. We were in the World Series last year. Again, best record in the AL this season. But if things start to turn and Yankees fans get really irate about it, I don't think Aaron Boone's going to be around for very long.
I don't think how. I mean, I feel like this is not a crazy statement, and it's played out in the last couple of years. Hal doesn't have his dad's killer instinct. And I don't think he gives a shit what the fans think, quite honestly.
I happen to agree with Luke on this one only because I think that there's been a lot of devastation in terms of what the Yankees have done. Like coming off the World Series loss, I was very clear that I thought he was going to get more time because they got to the World Series. Even though they lost, they got to the World Series with that squad. And now they still managed to do a significant amount of damage and make a run without Soto, without making significant additions, right? I mean, Bellinger had a pretty good year for them. Trent Grisham had a really good year for them as well. Guys that may not be there next year, sure. But I feel like they feel for some reason that Boone's okay. I mean, they let him go. He's not being fired right now. But I do think he's on the hot seat. Because what happens if you make it to the first round next year and you're an exit, or the Yankees miss the playoffs next year, I don't think you justify giving Boone more time. I just don't. I mean, and this is not like a me jumping to the fan impulse thing. It's just at some point it becomes the fact that you need a different voice in there. And you've only got so many years of Aaron Judge superstar left. And you want to maximize that, considering he is a generational type of player. As much as, I hate having to say nice things about the Yankees, but it makes perfect sense to say it about Aaron Judge. Generational level player. You've got some aging guys on there like Cole, and Rodon's not old, but they're aging. They're getting older. The window is going to get smaller while teams around them get better. So I feel like I don't think he's necessarily going to be like a mid-season fire. The Yankees just don't really seem to operate that way unless they would have some kind of like catastrophic type of season. And I just frankly don't foresee that happening. As much as I would love to laugh at it, I don't foresee the Yankees like ripping off like a 15-game losing streak and Boone getting fired. That seems unrealistic. But I do think that based on how they finish next season, that this is a hot seat season for him in the same way that it is for Mendoza. I talked about this openly on the Mets side, that they want to give him a year. Sure, but Mendoza might be somebody that gets fired mid-year. I think the difference there is that I could see Mendoza getting fired mid-season for the Mets. I don't think I see Boone getting fired mid-season. I don't know if the two of you agree or disagree with that.
I agree with that.
I think Yankees fans like dream of like a 15-game losing streak and Aaron Boone getting fired. But I think you bring up a good point.
I think they're dreaming of him getting like killed by firing squad. I have to be honest. I've been on Twitter. They don't want him fired. They want him like subject to a firing squad. I have seen like the Yankee side of Twitter.
They want to like drop him off in like the deepest part of the Marianas Trench and some unknown creature just swallow him up and digest him for the next 1,500 years. Like that seems like the ideal situation.
My understanding, but I'll let you continue your thought.
No, I agree too. It's like, I don't know how many years Aaron Boone has left on his contract, but it always just seems like it's season to season with him, right? Like we're going to see how the season plays out. And if the temperature feels good at the end of the season, Aaron can come back. I think the one season where they missed the playoffs with Aaron Boone, we were really sounding off the alarms. It's like, this guy might actually get fired. And they kept him, and they made, they made it to the World Series last year. Again, they made it to the playoffs this year. But again, it's like you want to see the full season play out, especially when you have a team. They'll probably bring back a team again that's projecting, I don't know, at least 88 wins with the way the roster is constructed right now. Maybe you pick up a couple pieces and you feel good. Maybe you have about a 90 plus win season projection. So you want to see how the season plays out because there are ebbs and flows. There were times throughout the season. And I know you can go back on this podcast and I will tell you that the Yankees are the worst team in the MLB. At certain points of last year. And then there were some certain points of the year where you felt like they couldn't lose a single game. So there are ebbs and flows throughout the season. And I think Cashman understands that. I think Hal understands that. And like you said, I think they're going to wait till the end of the season and let it all play out and really gauge the temperature at that time.
No, that's fair. I think they because I agree with what Peter was saying about the fact that there's not necessarily like a killer instinct in that regard, but I think it's reasonable. Like, I don't necessarily feel like the Yankees are the type of squad they're going to need an in-season firing. So we'll see what happens with the boys over there. On the other side of town, some interesting news came out of Mets camp as we had to watch Jeremy Hefner and Antoine Richardson, arguably parts of the Mets' recent success, sign with the Braves. What I learned out of this, however, is something that a lot of people learned, and I just didn't know this. So I'll bring it up for anyone who might be watching. So part of the reason that Antoine Richardson did not return to the Mets, because he did circle back to the Mets, was because of the fact that there's a restriction from the players union on the number of coaches that are allowed to receive a pension when being offered a contract. And because the Mets had hired new coaches, in the sense of new hitting coaches, a new a hitting director, a new bench coach in Kai Correa, they couldn't offer another pension on their offer, so they couldn't make the same offer to Antoine Richardson, even though they were willing to match the salary. And I had no idea that rule existed. I gotta be really honest with you. And this is coming from a guy that's had some information from inside of baseball, that's generally been familiar with the game. I feel like I know the rules. And this was news to me, that there was a limit on the amount of pensions they could offer. And the fact that if they could offer a pension, we'd still have our first base coach.
I mean, listen, I understand Mets fans, immediate reaction of, oh shit, this isn't good. Again, I've said it 1,000 times. Juan Soto finished the year with 38 steals. So now he hasn't got anywhere close to that before this. Like, obviously, what Richardson did this year was amazing. But, and this might sound mean, but he's a first base coach. Like, let's calm down. Like, sure, like, maybe the numbers of steal goes down next year, but, like, is it really going to be this, like, earth-shattering thing that Richardson's not back there next year? Yeah, like, that's insane. 90% is insane. But, like, again, this is not alarm bell worthy. The biggest part of this story is that he went to the Braves. If he went anywhere else, it would be a non-issue.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to really just say shame on David Stearns and his team not knowing that this rule exists, right? Like, you should be aware of this. And here you are. I mean, you basically hired two hitting coaches, right? You hired someone to run the whole hitting program, and then you hired a. Okay.
Well, no, hold on. Well, first of all, this isn't saying that the Mets didn't know the rule. Originally, Richardson, they tried to work a deal, and they couldn't come to an agreement, so the Mets moved on. And then this is Richard circling back, and the Mets already moved on. So it's not like they tried to re-sign him and then they found out they couldn't. That was the main part. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's my point. I mean, again, I read it as they had already offered other coaches pensions, and so therefore they could not offer Richardson a pension, which, whether or not he's deserving of a pension is a different story. He clearly felt that he was deserving of one, and that should have been aware for the people who were responsible for re-signing him, which I'm assuming is David Stearns and his team.
Well, they did. So Richardson was one of the first people they tried to re-sign. They couldn't come to an agreement, so it was like, okay. So then the Mets moved on to other hires because they had a couple. They had like 3 or 4 empty coaching positions, and then Richardson got another offer, gave the Mets the option to match it, and the Mets couldn't because they already signed other coaches. So this isn't a case of like the Mets mismanaged how many pensions they were allowed to give, like David Stearns didn't know the rules. It was just a simple fact of the Mets already moved on from Richardson. But as far as 2 hitting coaches, they really didn't hire 2 hitting coaches again. They have one guy who is the hitting coach, and they have another guy that's like in charge of hitting development throughout the entire Mets organization. Honestly, most teams have that structure. So they're not doing the co-hitting coach thing anymore. So it's a little bit different than it was last year.
I think I'm a little sour about it. I think I fall somewhere in between, where I'm not going to condemn Stearns in the Mets situation, but I also do think it's a bigger deal than you might want to make it out to be, Peter, because at the end of the day, I mean, we won't know until next season as to how much of the Mets' stolen base success was credited to Antoine Richardson, right? Like, if it could be a moot point. We could be a month in and they're still going to be stealing bases like gangbusters, and we won't have to worry about it, right? But if they're not moving with that same efficiency right off the bat, I would be a little bit upset, because at the end of the day, I openly talk about this a lot. We supposedly have one of the richest, if not the richest owners in baseball, right? What is the differential in salary for a first base coach? $150K at some point or something like that. Like, this is not a Juan Soto contract you're giving Antoine Richardson. Now, granted, I don't know the exact numbers as to what's coming out of Atlanta yet, and we know that some of that's going to be taking a cut as he donates to the Atlanta Braves Foundation. But I feel weird about it in the sense that I want to believe that no stone is being left unturned in terms of finding people who can make a successful organization. And Antoine Richardson was part of one of the few things that went very right for the Mets in 2025. And he's taking a lateral move. You know, there was talk about him wanting more, wanting a promotion, things like that. He circled around. The Braves are giving him a lateral move. He's going to be their first base coach. He's not going to be their bench coach or something like that. Like, if he was their bench coach or something like that, I might sit there and say, okay, fine. He got a promotion. I get that. The Mets were not looking to give him that move, right? But this is a lateral thing. He's now their first base coach. And I know that it seems like it's much ado about nothing, but clearly the lack of good coaching in certain regards has affected the Mets in one way or another over the last few years. And so I feel a little bit bad about this, and especially because of the fact they're going to the Braves. You know, like if I have to watch Marcell Ozuna turn into like a base stealing threat, right? On top of the fact that he's hit his wife, I don't know if I want to see that. It's just not something that would bring me enjoyment as somebody who watches baseball.
Just a quick note: Marcell Ozuna is currently on the free agent market, and we don't know if he's returning back to the Braves.
Well, hopefully he returns to nowhere. But again,
I also hope that he. Well, actually, I don't hope that he goes home, but because bad things happen when he goes home.
I was gonna say, I don't know if I want him to go home. We might actually want him to spend a little more time.
Actually, yeah, maybe keep him on the baseball diamond, like send him down to like the Mexico League or something. Send him over to like NPB or KBO or something.
He would actually not making any kind of bad jokes. He would probably do really well in one of the overseas leagues just because of the fact that there's an amazing power rate. So he would probably kill it over in like the NPB or something like that. But no, I would just watch the phrasing with killing. But yes, absolutely, I agree. I also, that's why I was like, let me preface. I'm also nervous about the fact that I'm still kind of mixed on whether or not I understand if Jeremy Hefner is a good pitching coach or not, because there were a lot of things that I saw that were really positive in terms of what he was doing. And so the other big question for me here that will be eventually answered next season too, to some extent, was some of the Mets' good pitching development a result of Jeremy Hefner, or was it the fact that they invested so much in their pitching lab and developing pitchers? Right. So if Jeremy Hefner was the one who was a big part of, let's say, making Griffin Canning a better pitcher, making Sean Manaea a better pitcher, getting consistency out of Edwin Diaz again, these type of things. If this was Jeremy Hefner's work, then this is an above average pitching coach going to a division rival with electric arms. And, I don't want to see Spencer Schwellenbach step up and face the Mets as an ace level guy again, right? I don't want to see Spencer Strider return to form in that regard if Jeremy Hefner has something to do with it. So yes, emotionally I am bothered because they're going to the Braves, but like in terms of like tangible, like practical move over, I am also worried about that because I do think they are good hires for the Braves, and I don't like that. Well, so I feel weird.
If it makes you feel any better, just remember the Mets pitching in the second half, and then maybe you'll feel a little bit better about him going over there. But I will, again, bring up the whole Richardson thing. Mets Marais put out an article not that long ago talking about the situation, and they talked about, obviously, the main reason Richardson didn't go was because of the pension. But originally, in the Mets' original offer, it included a pension, but Richardson chose to talk to other teams about opportunities. Richard then returned to the Mets, willing to discuss their offer, but the Mets had already moved on and gave other offers with pensions. So he's only here because he didn't accept the first offer. He went to the free agent market, which is his right to do, and saw what other offers he could, went to the Mets, and the Mets already moved on. So, like, I don't think this is a case of the Mets mismanaging things. Just, and I don't even think it's necessarily a case of Richardson didn't necessarily want to return to the Mets. It was just a case that he tested his options. The Mets didn't feel like waiting around for him, and the Braves were there to sign him. So it is what it is.
Because the initial post thing said that, they had a difference in salary and benefits, and if the benefits was regard to the pension comment, right, then the salary thing was just a matter of if they paid him a little more, he might have stayed. That's the way I look at it. That's the way I
from what Metsmerized said, and obviously Ram, I know you know them a lot better than I do. It seems like it was just it was the pension thing. He wanted to test free agency, and then after that, the pension was no longer available from the Mets.
It wasn't, and it does suck, I guess. I personally didn't know that was a rule. I learned that because of this, and I hated to sit there and be like, great, thanks. The Mets have taught me something else about baseball that I'm only learning when it negatively impacts me and my fandom. It has to be through the Mets. You know, it's like one of those things where I'm like, oh, man, that's a thing? Yep, and it somehow worked against the Mets. There we go. We'll find a way. They messed it up. And I love them to death, my God. But
this really doesn't seem like a thing that Metsed up. It genuinely doesn't. It doesn't. I don't think this is a Metsed up thing.
That's what I do think it is in this case, but I also don't know if it. I do think they messed it up, but I also think that at the end of the day, the jury is out on whether or not this is going to be something that even has an impact, right? So like I'm calm. I'm not ready to jump off the bridge, but I'm disappointed because like that's just not fun that I'm gonna have to go see them like hang out in Braves gear. I mean, come on, man! Like nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to see the Braves be successful. Braves fans don't even want to see the Braves be successful. Ash doesn't even watch baseball anymore. You know, like this is not a thing. Like it can't happen that way.
Well, the baseball season is over, so no one's really watching baseball. Well, I mean, Arizona League starts soon, so that's.
Isn't the AFL? The AFL is going on right now, isn't it? Like
I think so.
Have been playing for a couple weeks. Yeah,
I think so. Just one last thought on on the coaches. I think the litmus test for this on whether the Mets this up is how well does the Mets hitting do this year, right? Because obviously you prioritize the hitting coaches, which is fine, right? Those are the guys you wanted, go get them, right? But then that obviously didn't allow you to get the the benefits for Richardson, right? So that's on the Mets side, and then on the Braves side, how is their base running? Right? Like, are they also stealing at this clip? And is Richardson really that good at his job? Right. And if the Mets hitting isn't good and the Braves are stealing a bunch of bases at a high clip, then yeah, the Mets it up.
Well, I will say, as far as Richardson goes, for his credit, the Mets were one of the slowest teams in baseball last year.
Yeah.
And they had a fantastic stealing base percentage. However, I am very excited about this new pitching coach that they got. It's funny, even though he had a pretty high role in Boston, he did a lot of podcasts with just like regular, podcast people. And so his philosophy is out there, pretty well documented. He is very much, and Ram, I know this will make you excited. His philosophy is very much pitch in the zone. You have to pitch in the zone.
I forgot if we talked about it when he got hired, but like his whole philosophy is throw the ball in the freaking zone, and I loved it because I'm like, you got guys with elite stuff. Stop walking them. Just it's okay.
It's very. I know the Tampa Bay Rays have pitched this philosophy for years now, right? You get guys with really good velocity, really good stuff. Throw the damn ball in the zone, right? Like, make them hit the ball, right? And you can see over the years, the Tampa Bay Rays have found a lot of success, not so much in starting pitching, but a lot in their relief pitching, which I think is where the Mets were lacking in the last couple of seasons.
And I mean, just look at some of the years that Boston pitchers had. Bello really started, he really turned it around this year. And everyone's like, Crochet was a finished product, but Crochet added I believe it was a sinker this year, which has ended up being his most thrown pitch. So like, I think everyone agreed Crochet is one of the best young starters in the league, right? Like that's Absolutely. Not a crazy thing. So like he added something to his game that would, make him better. And like it's funny. I hear all this stuff and there's a part of me that's like, damn, I wish McGill wasn't having Tommy John, because that's like his big thing is he just can't throw strikes in the zone. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, I got to be real. It's obviously got to be a little more detailed than that, because I don't want it to be like that Drake meme where like he walks into camp on day one. He's like, guys, throw the ball in the zone. And they're all like, oh, wow. Like, it's like, I can't imagine, like, I can't imagine looking at McGill and nobody has fucking looked at Tyler McGill and was like, hey, the fastball, throw it in the zone. And his mind just like lights up and he's like, I can do that? What the it's not guys like that. I do like the coach, by the way. I love his philosophy. I'm on board with it. I just think it's funny because it feels like it's being dumbed down for a plebeian like me, where it's like, oh, he's a pitching coach. He likes to tell them to throw strikes. And I'm like, I can do that. I can not. My first thought was telling Peter, I remember looking on Discord, and I was like, Peter, I can do that. I can tell them to throw strikes. I can yell it from section 500. I'm loud enough. Like, it's going to work. But
it's true. I've been to games with you. You are loud enough.
I know. They can hear me. That's the point. I want them to hear me. They're not.
We know for a fact Brandon Nimmo can hear you.
Brandon Nimmo can hear me, and by that extension, God can hear me. If Brandon Nimmo can hear me, God can hear me, and that's the important thing.
I think we've proven that God can hear you. You just don't want to admit it yet.
No, Brandon Nimmo could hear me, and because of that, God can hear me. Because Brandon Nimmo, as we know, as a child of God, is a true extension of God Himself. But switching off baseball for a bit, I'm gonna bore some of the people and talk about basketball for a few moments because the Knicks were finding some success. Yeah, so the Knicks with a 5-0 start at home here at MSG, and I wanted to talk some boring stuff for a second here because it'll be fun. But first off, let's pull this up so we have a little. No more Antoine Richardson. There we go. Let's go here. So after a loss to the Bulls on the road, they have taken 3 straight at home and are now 5-0 at home, as Peter mentioned. So I talked a lot about the Princeton offense when Mike Brown came over and the fact that it required all 5 players to shoot the ball, shoot more threes, and shoot at an efficient clip. And I was worried about how well the Knicks would adjust to that, considering the fact that they were coming off a relatively non-existent offensive system that involved giving Brunson the ball and just saying, fuck it, figure it out. And this is with all my love to Thibodeau because they love Thibodeau as a team, obviously, and they played hard for him. But the evidence of the fact that the Knicks are like rolling right now offensively, not only is the 5-0 at home, not only is the fact that they've beaten some good teams, they rebounded from a loss against the Bulls, who were previously undefeated, to hand them their first loss on top of that. And the fact that they blew out the Timberwolves by 20 and putting up, 137 against the returning Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves. An interesting fact is that the second half in that T-Wolves game, where they put up 83 points, ties the franchise record for the most points in the second half the Knicks have ever put up. Right. And there's a lot of fluidity in this offense right now. And a big part of that, in my opinion, is the fact that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are shooting the ball more. There was an interview that came out, I believe, for The Athletic that said that OG himself had been passing up threes to get what he thought were better looks at the basket in terms of twos. And now he's just taking the three. And he was a little bit too hesitant to do that. This offense is predicated on the fact that all of them need to be able to shoot the three. Mike Brown has talked about sprays in terms of taking more threes and the way that the offense is run. And even in these games that they lost, I mean, yes, that Bulls game was 135-125. They put up 125. They put up 111 against the Bucks in a loss. They put up 107 against the Heat. And so the lowest the Knicks have put up so far this season is 105, and that was 105 in a win against the Celtics in a slower-paced game. The offense is humming, folks. And so this is a very interesting thing to see, that if they can stay healthy, this is a Knicks team that might be able to do some damage, and it's a lot of fun to watch. I mean, the fact that OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges are out there and playing hard, Josh Hart's had some really good games. The interesting thing about it to me so far, with the 5-3 record so far and 5-0 at home, is that, and this is where it gets scary because I don't like to be optimistic as a Knicks fan, this is sustainable basketball. They're not doing anything that relies on needing the starters to play 40 minutes a night. They're not asking anyone to play hero ball where one person is stepping up and doing superhuman things. They're just playing good, well-rounded basketball, getting good looks at the basket, and figuring things out. And right now the Knicks are a good team because of it. And I'm pleased at how quickly they've adapted to the Princeton offense because of the amount that they're scoring. I'm pleased that we're at a position where I've seen Mike Brown be creative with his rotations because he himself is using these early games as a matter of saying, oh, I want to kind of find my guy, so I'm going to give people a chance. So there's no more of the, all right, the rookies are being buried away and not having a chance to get burn and show that they can do something. I'm enjoying it. It's scary to say because this is a weak East and this is the time for the Knicks to do it, but they're playing good basketball. And I don't know if the two of you have caught anything of the Knicks. I know Luke joked with me last week that he ended up having to watch the Knicks because of me, and I appreciate that. But they're playing solid team basketball, and it's been enjoyable for me so far. A long, long way to go. We're only 8 games in out of an 82-game season, so only 10% there. But early returns look comfortable.
I completely agree. And they're doing it on both sides of the ball as well, offense and defense. But, it's funny, Ram, and all that time you mentioned, there's one player that you didn't really highlight that I think absolutely needs to be highlighted. I'm going to put up a little thing here. Your thing stayed up. Where'd it go? There. Why isn't it showing up? This is great podcasting. There we go. NBA leaders on offensive rebounds per 36 minutes this season. There is a big gap between 1 and 2. And guess what, guys? Mitchell Robinson plays for the Knicks. Rudy Gobert was like a 3-time NBA Defensive Player of the Year. And Mitchell Robinson said, I am your father. So it completely dominated them. Like, the Knicks, they didn't have him in the beginning of the season. They still were playing pretty well. But now you're adding Mitchell Robinson. He's just soaking up offensive rebounds for second chance points. And he's also just kind of a menace on defense too. So like when you have a fully healthy Knicks team like this, and especially because of injuries, but a weak East this year, why the hell not? Why the hell not?
Yeah, Mitch has long been such an interesting part of what this Knicks team can do. Because there are situations where he can guard anybody on the floor, where he's been off there switching, he's guarded anyone. His offensive rebounding and his ability to be a force as an old school center with the athleticism of a new school center has been a menace for a while. I mean, he's part of the reason we did well in playoff series in the past. If this Knicks team stays healthy, I mean, I love Mitch. I love what he's doing. And like I said, that's the scary thing about how sustainable this is. This isn't Mitchell Robinson doing superhuman things like that he's never done before. He has always been this good. He just needs to be healthy. Josh Hart's rebounding, the way the guys are passing and shooting the ball, they're not suddenly doing things in an amazing superhuman way. This is all sustainable basketball. And that's the key to whether or not this is going to be a team that can do something in terms of the playoffs. And if he wants to experiment for half the season to figure out the rotation, fuck it, I'm for it. I mean, I think the Knicks are going to make the playoffs either way. So there are going to be some games where I'm like, yeah, go ahead, send a rotation out there, send a lineup out there that I didn't expect you to do, just to get a look at some of these guys and figure out what they can contribute for, even if it's moments in the playoffs. It won't be much. It won't be anything like that. Tighten up then. The only thing that I think I was worried about seeing how some of these guys who were used to usages of like 35 plus minutes would adjust to a little bit less and things like that. But, outside of the gamblers who've been complaining, so far so good, right? I mean, it's been fun. Nobody's getting hurt right now. I'm going to hope to that. I mean, it's a long way to go. I'm trying not to get my hopes up. But overall, I just like that they're playing well. I love that they're playing well at home. I want them to defend the home court. I mean, MSG is a very special place, not only for basketball, but especially for the Knicks themselves. If you can create like this kind of – Knicks fans have really responded to Jalen Brunson over the last few years and the current Knicks success. So if you can keep MSG being a place where it's like, oh, we don't want to play the Knicks at MSG, I think that goes a really long way. And a 5-0 start under a new regime for that squad without significant additions to the players, that's a big deal. So it's been fun in that regard so far.
So let me ask this as a non-basketball savant, right? Someone who's just sort of an objective watcher. You keep saying that the Knicks are playing the sustainable style of basketball, right? And I'm looking at the stats, right? I'm looking at 2 years ago, they were 16th in the league in three-pointers attempted. Last year, they were third to last in three-pointers attempted. This year, they're third in the league in three-pointers attempted, right? when we talk about when you talk about sustainable basketball and you're chucking up all these threes, do they have the roster to do that? Right? Like you think about Mike Brown, with Golden State, right? You had Steph Curry and I'm already blanking on his name, but he plays
Klay
for
Thompson?
Dallas. Yeah,
Klay Thompson.
Klay Thompson, two of the best 3-point shooters of all time, right? That's sustainable. That is 100% sustainable for Golden State because they had two guys who, again, are great 3-point shooters. I think Andre Iguodala is a great 3-point shooter as well. Draymond Green can shoot the threes as well. Is that really sustainable for the New York Knicks? Do they have a roster that can shoot 3-pointers like the golden age of the Golden State Warriors?
Well, I think that's a little bit of an unfair comparison because you're asking them to be compared to one of the greatest 3-point shooting teams we'll ever see. However, what I will say in the defense of the Knicks, yeah, Jalen Brunson can shoot the hell out of the 3. OG can shoot the hell out of the 3. Cat can shoot the hell out of the 3. But they're not. And I think over time that percentage will go down in the league, but they're not forcing threes. They're taking open shots. So I don't care if that's a 3 or a 2. If you're taking an uncontested shot, fucking shoot it, bro. So I think that's overall going to go down. If the Knicks were constantly forcing or looking for threes, I might be a little bit more concerned, but it's just they're taking the open shot.
Yeah, I also agree with the first part of his sentiment there too, by the way, because it's sort of like if I'm looking at somebody who's got like the same usage as Michael Jordan, you're like, well, can he be Michael Jordan? No, he can't. The Knicks are not going to be the dynasty level Warriors, and I don't even think that's the goal. I think it's the idea of modernizing the offense. That whether or not we want to admit it, the game does live and die by the 3 these days, and unless you're the Thunder, who can pull a foul call out of nowhere and get to the free throw line for fun, which the Knicks do not have that benefit because they don't have a superstar in that regard. Jalen Brunson gets abused because small guard and doesn't. He gets a lot of foul calls compared to what
he gets a lot of foul calls. Let's be real here. Let's be real. He gets to the line a lot.
Yes, but it's also because he's a very small guard, to the point where and he's smart enough to understand what that contact needs to look like to get a foul too, which is sometimes a pain in the ass for me to watch. Where I'm like, Jalen, stop. But at the end of the day, the modern NBA offense does run through the 3, and so I think it's important to be able to see the fact that are they going to be able to do it at the rate that the Warriors did? Absolutely not. But at the fact that you have above average 3-point shooters at every position here for the Princeton offense. The difference here versus something like the Warriors, at the time, I believe some of those years it was like Kevon Looney and even guys, Draymond could shoot 3 once in a while, but not every position at the 5 deep could run the 3 for those Warriors. But they had 2 of the best 3-point shooters in the history of the game in Klay and Steph, right? Here, every one of the Knicks starting 5 can shoot the 3. They're not Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Don't ever mistake me for saying that, right? But every single one of them, including the center and Cat, can shoot the 3, which is what makes this an interesting thing. So the goal is to get a high percentage shot. And if you're going to create threes and somebody's going to get open, somebody can shoot that 3. That's why I consider it to be sustainable, because it's not the idea of the offense needs Jalen Brunson to shoot the 3 to be successful. It's if we continue to shoot 3s at this rate and we make them at the rate that we average for our careers, this is a team that will score a lot of points. And that's what I was alluding to in the idea of 105 is the lowest we scored so far. This team hasn't been held to under 108 games. Even with bad shooting in some of those games, they're still figuring it out. So if this is a team that's going to average 110 a game, this is a dangerous basketball squad. If you don't know who to double, if you can't leave somebody open for the 3, it can be a lot of fun. So I do think it's sustainable in that way that, because you mentioned that it's the 3rd most in 3s attempted, right?
Yes.
Do we have the stats in terms of where they stand in terms of 3-point percentage?
That I don't have.
I want to see if I can pull it up because I was going to make a point, but I don't want to sound stupid. I'll double check that before we move on to something else. But let's see if I can get team shooting dashboard stats. Come on, NBA. Help me out here. I don't care about the Pacers. They're not.
They're currently 4th in the NBA in percentage of points from 3-pointers.
which is a big deal.
Yes.
Right. But right now, see, this is what I think is interesting. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th in the league in actual 3-point percentage.
Wow.
So I think it's the idea of like, you're middle of the, that's why I think it's sustainable. That's what I was going to say. They're top, 12 out of 30. General, it's top, it's above average, right? But it's not like they're coasting on being the top 3 shooting team in the league, and this is unsustainable. I think it's very sustainable for the Knicks to be able to be the 12th ranked team in shooting. And I do think it does coordinate with the amount of points they get out of the 3, because an above average efficiency means they'll be fine over the span of the season. On days that they really hit, it'll be interesting.
They average 49.1 points per game off 3-pointers, and that's second best in the league behind Golden State.
And what's kind of interesting to that is the Knicks don't have any player individually in the top 5% of shooting or percentage wise. So it just goes to show how good like Ram was saying, your entire team can shoot threes.
Yeah. No, there's depth. What you're saying is there's depth. It's not like you're leaning on 1 or 2 guys to hit the 3. You're forcing the defense to cover everyone in the 3-point land, right?
Yeah.
And the hope is that you will eventually move the ball around enough that someone's going to be wide open for a high percentage shot.
Either that, or also with Jalen Brunson is top 5 in drives per game. Like, if these teams are guarding the 3 ball, great, and Jalen can just drive it to the hoop. So, and if they're guarding the hoop,
get his
foul shot.
Yeah,
or he gets fouled and goes to the line. Yeah.
No, but that's why
we can coach the Princeton offense.
I was very I absolutely cannot coach the Princeton offense. I can tell people to throw strikes. I love the Princeton offense. I'm not even going to make a joke that I can coach the Princeton offense. But,
I'm just imagining Graham coming in day one of being the Knicks head coach, like kicking the Gatorade can and being like, "You guys need to throw strikes." Like,
I gotta be honest with you though. I try so hard not to be that guy like online and in person, but sometimes I'm watching the game and I'm like, throw a fucking strike. I do this with UFC all the time, where I'm watching a guy, it's round 3. I'm like, okay, he needs to finish, right? And he goes out there and he's just like doing fucking cardio. And I'm like, what did your coaches tell you? You're going to lose the fight in 5 minutes if you don't lift your arms and throw a strike. Applicable to both baseball and UFC, apparently. Yes. But God help me. And moving off that to another lovely situation that gets us all happy in the New York Jets. We can finish off our New York Sports Hour by talking about the New York Jets trade deadline, because they fucking lost. But they didn't. They had a bye week, but it feels like they lost. The Jets went ahead and traded 2 guys off. Sauce Gardner being the most notable, because he got 2 first-round picks out of the Indianapolis Colts. And was it Quentin Williams that also went out?
Sure was.
Right, for another first-round pick. So the Jets acquired 3 first-round picks.
And a second.
3 first-round picks, a second, and former second-round receiver Adonai Mitchell, I believe, from the Colts in that deal too, who is considered to be at least a solid physical prospect, even though he was in the doghouse on the Colts side, because their other talent was putting some stuff together. But, Peter, this is more your territory. I have a few things to say, but, you're wearing the Jets hat. I can't let you not talk about the Jets, right? How do you feel about this?
Well, also the Jets got I don't even know his name, but he was graded 114th out of 114 defensive tackles. So, yippee!
I didn't want to do that one, but go ahead and knock yourself out.
So, there's a couple different routes I could take this. I could talk about how draft capital is good. I could talk about how, you were 1-7 with these guys. You can be 1-7 without them. I could talk about how the Jets traded 2 first-round picks for, to Seattle when they traded away Harris, and that's what got these guys. And it still didn't make a fucking difference. I could talk about how I wish the Colts included their owner in this deal, because, my God, I would love the Colts owner. Like, she's doing a hell of a job. You got the best cornerback, an all-pro cornerback locked up who's on a 4-year deal. Mwah. Like, fuck the draft picks. But here's the problem. Yeah, like, draft capital is good. It's cool. Everyone likes it. Yay. The Jets have proven time and time and again, while they can hit on the occasional Sauce Gardner or Williams, they can't build a team with this. They don't know how. They've tried with multiple regimes, and multiple regimes don't know how. I've said it a million times, and until the Jets make the fucking playoffs, I will keep saying it. It is statistically harder in this league to be as bad as you've been than just 1 year accidentally be good. The Jets have not given me a reason to be excited that they have the competence in themselves to turn this around. As far as I'm concerned, everything that they have shown me, you could give them 10 first-round picks and Peyton Manning, and they'll find a way to fuck it up. Because that's what the Jets do. Like, I get it. You know, I'm the more negative slanting one. Ram, you're the more positive slanting one. But what have the Jets given you to be confident in the past 15 years? Can you name a thing? Can you name one thing?
Well, let's just talk simple math here, right? Quentin Williams was a first-round pick, and we got a first-round pick and a second for him. Sauce Gardner was a first-round pick, and we got a first-round pick and another first-round pick and a second-round receiver.
Great.
Now, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying,
you
like,
got 3 lottery
specifically
picks.
in this case, I'm not upset because I feel like this is the way the assets should have been managed. I do think that this is because I'm with the camp of like, look, you were 1-7 with these guys. You were not going to make anything close to a playoff run this year, and maybe not next unless you find a quarterback. The Jets need to find a fucking quarterback, and it's not Fields, and they haven't found a quarterback in a long time. And even the closest thing they had to a quarterback, let's say Mark Sanchez, right, was the game manager built on an elite level defense and an elite level defensive coach in Rex Ryan, right? And those things happened to be a perfect storm in that way. And so Mark Sanchez was like a system quarterback in that way. It's not like he was ever somewhere elite outside of it. What I worry about now is that I'm seeing so many quarterbacks like develop later on. Like the Colts came out today, by the way, after responding to the fact they traded 2 first-round picks and Adonai Mitchell for Gardner, right? And they said they feel like they have a franchise quarterback in Daniel Jones. Now, the Giants have been there before. So it's not like I'm going to sit there and be like, oh, absolutely, like that should be your guy, and this is like the route on the Giants. It's very, very, very possible that Daniel Jones just turns back into a pumpkin. So, like, I'm not going to sit there and say that they're smart in that regard for sure. However, we've seen a lot more quarterbacks like Sam Darnold been able to develop like outside of the few years after. Mac Jones has looked pretty decent right now after some time too, even though he was just a random flash in the pan on the Patriots side. He looked pretty good in San Francisco. Granted, these are better organizations than the Jets. So my fear comes down to the idea of like, I feel like they're going to make a move for a quarterback, which is good. They need to. I don't know how it's going to work on paper because I have negative faith in the Jets' ability to develop a quarterback. I think they draft better than people give them credit for because over the years I've watched these Jets draft picks. I mean, we were talking about Mangle, rest in peace. That was 20 years ago, right? That draft and Ferguson and stuff like that. We went through a few years of them picking some guys that were ass, but there have been some picks that have been useful, especially in the late rounds. I don't really hate their drafting, but I do have a lot of fear of their development. I don't have any confidence they can develop a quarterback. And going into a draft that this is considered to be the weakest quarterback draft going forward, and arguably thinking these guys might need a little more development because of that, I could be setting myself up for disappointment, right? But it looks like they have a guy they're going to target one way or another. Either the extra picks are going to be used to move up, or they're going to be able to take their guy where they stand if they end up with the first pick. We'll see, but it's tough for me. I don't blame you at all for being negative with the Jets. I mean, until we make the playoffs again, right? There's nothing I could say that would make me feel like, oh, I'm in the right for being the positive looker here, because the Jets need to make the goddamn playoffs, right? If they're not, there's no results at the end of the day. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that it may not happen until we get new ownership. I've definitely gotten to that point where I'm like, all right, we have a guy in charge that, so like, we talk about things that, can I tell guys to throw strikes? Yes. Can I coach the Princeton offense? No. Could I run the Jets better than Woody Johnson? You're damn right I could. I know that I could run the Jets better than Woody Johnson. I'm 100% sure of that. And that's not just not me blowing smoke up my own ass. I'm sure Peter believes that too. because it's a pretty low bar to clear in terms of running the Jets better than Woody Johnson. So I have that fear about that too when it comes down to figuring out where the Jets are going to do. But mathematically, again, we took a first-round pick that we weren't going to get the true value out of, and we're able to get 2 first-round picks out of it, and a receiver that who knows could be something, could be not, but I'll take him rather than not have him. And you trade a first-round defensive lineman for a first-round pick and a second-round pick, which, by the way, the Cowboys are fucking geniuses for trading Micah Parsons and then moving draft capital that they got just to get a really good but lesser versatile defensive player. Great job on the Cowboys front over there. But and Mozzie Smith, who's not good. But I'll live with it. It's a lot of it is copium because they could end up just screwing this up all over again, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I like that they took advantage of a seller's market. That's what I'm going to say.
I mean, Ram, here's the issue. Yes, they traded. They turned these guys into multiple first-round picks, but now these are wild cards. They could hit. You could miss. I don't want to get too far into this rant without saying, Quentin Williams, thank you very much. It came out shortly after he was traded that at 3 times recently he requested the Jets trade him. At no point did he make this public, because if he did, he would have guaranteed he got moved, but the Jets would have gotten, I don't know, a 5th-round pick for him. So thank you for not leaking that.
Yes,
I will root for you wherever you go. Absolute class act.
I could tell a lot of these guys wanted to be like he said. I think after the trade that the Jets knew he was frustrated. Exactly what you said, that he had wanted to trade, but he did it privately. I know that. So I love that these guys weren't. It's not in the business of like this like crazy ass holdout culture stuff. Like I know they have their moments, but at the end of the day, they did their stuff in private, like you said, Peter, and I respect that because the leverage stayed in the hands of the Jets, and they were able to take advantage of the sales market for that. So I do agree with that 100%.
I think the point on the ownership, I think the best owner in New York should put a bid in for the Jets. I think James Dolan should take over the New York Jets, and I think that's the energy that they need.
I don't think they need crackhead energy. Go
ahead. All jokes aside, I think the Jets have a win. And they have 2 losses on the trade deadline. I totally agree that Quentin Williams trade is a huge win for the Jets. 1st-round pick and a 2nd-round pick for an aging interior defensive lineman. I'm sorry, big run stoppers are a dime a dozen in this league. And you're moving an above average one for what you already paid for him. So I think that's definitely a big win for the Jets. I think the first loss comes from the Sauce Gardner trade. I think it's great that the Jets pick up 2 1st-round picks, but you just traded a guy who you got with the, what was it, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th,
4th. He was the 4th. He was the 4th pick in 2022.
Fourth overall pick for probably back end of the 1st round. I don't think you're going to get Sauce Gardner back in those picks, right? And it seems like a deal that you don't have. It just seems like a lack of identity trade, right? You sign Sauce Gardner to this 4-year deal. You're locked in. You have your all-pro defensive player, and then you just let him go the first year of the deal, right? You're trying to build something here. And Ram, you talked about this before. The Jets are good when they have an elite defense and a game manager quarterback. You had your elite defender right there. You had your all-pro corner. Just go get your game manager quarterback. Go get your game manager quarterback.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing. If it was that easy.
You don't have it in Justin Fields. And I promise, this will be my final point on this, and this is going to piss you off. But I am so sick and tired of teams going out and finding their Pat Mahomes. I'm really tired of it. Like the Jets brought in, and they're like, oh, we're going to bring in Justin Fields. He's this dynamic quarterback. He can run. He can flip the ball around. He can do this. He can do that. He's our next Pat Mahomes. He's going to win us games. I'm sorry. Justin Fields is not Pat Mahomes. He's nowhere near Pat Mahomes. He shows flashes of it every so often, but the guys who are consistent in this league, the guys who wins, the Jimmy G's, the Tom Brady's, the Jared Goffs, the Joe Flacco's, those guys manage games. They're not your mobile quarterbacks who are doing a million things and winning you games. They're not losing you games. Those are the guys that the Jets need to go after. The Mark Sanchez, the Ryan Fitzpatrick. Those are when the Jets are good, and you can find those quarterbacks, but they refuse to do it.
Well,
did someone actively say that like the Jets were going after like a Pat Mahomes build with Justin Fields?
No.
I hope not. No, because like I was really with you. I'm like, this is a great point. I'm like, your point about it, and like, yeah, Justin Fields like Pat Mahomes, and I'm like, what idiot said that they? I was looking for tank commander Justin Fields when I was hoping for an entertaining season. I was not looking for Pat Mahomes. But
no,
I agree with your point.
My point is like,
your point. Yes,
right. You're looking. Every team is like looking for this dynamic quarterback, and I hate to say this, but Pat Mahomes is like the one in a million, right? Like.
They're looking to capture lightning in the bottle. They want guys like Pat Mahomes. They want guys like Daniel Jones. You know, they don't. They want the guys like Daniel Jones. They don't want the game managers like Jared Goff. I get it. He's
playing against bad teams. He is playing against bad teams, and you're going to see it in the second half of the season. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. He's not. He just went up against Pittsburgh. He had 4 fucking turnovers. He's not a good quarterback. And all for the Colts for going in on it, but I will tell you that they are going to regret giving up 2 draft picks for Sauce Gardner.
What if he's their Patrick Mahomes, Luke?
He's not. He's their
Huckleberry, man?
I am so tired of this. I am so tired of these teams looking for the Pat Mahomes and not wanting to pay the Jimmy G's. Like I don't get it. I don't get it.
Look, I'm not gonna let you sneak. You did it a second time. Jimmy Garoppolo. What the fuck has Jimmy Garoppolo done in this fucking league? That his name is.
He won games. He won games. He won games in New England, and he won games in San Francisco. He has a winning record. He has a winning record. I don't know what else you want from a quarterback.
There are so many other quarterbacks that fit that mold that have done way more than Jimmy Garoppolo, and it's crazy that that's one of the 3. But I will say, also, your Detroit Lions bias is showing because it's like, stop with the flashy guys. Jared Goff, he's the man. He's the best. He just does his job, which is great. I love Jared Goff. Jared Goff's the man. I was all for it when they won their first playoff game, and before that game, they were booing Matthew Stafford and cheering Aaron Goff like he was the second coming. But as far as the draft picks go from the Colts, this year it looks like it's going to be a pretty high one. I do think the Jets are hoping that Daniel Jones turns back into Daniel Jones, and year 2 is going to be a high pick. But here is what you guys are all forgetting, and it's we said before earlier, the Mets are going to Mets it up. Well, the Jets also love to jet it up. I would bet you dollars to donuts that the Jet, if it doesn't happen, you'll hear that they tried to do it. Move this year's first round pick and maybe next year's second round pick for Joe Burrow. I could very much see that happening. And guess what's going to happen, guys? Joe Burrow is going to do exactly what Joe Burrow did with the Bengals. We're going to get a little bit of hope. He's going to get a little excited. He's going to play real well. He's going to get hurt. And then he's never going to be the same. And then we're going to have Chad Pennington again. It's going to be great.
I would love
to be so. It's going to be so exciting.
I just want to put the Daniel Jones stuff here because of the fact that Luke said he wanted a winning quarterback, and mathematically, Daniel Jones is now a winning quarterback with the Colts. So I'm glad you got what you wanted. I know, I'm just messing with them.
Very small
size, but Miami suck. No, pull it back up.
Yeah, I got you.
Pull it back up. Miami.
He played Tennessee.
Miami's twice. Dog shit. Tennessee.
He did play Tennessee twice, by the way. I laughed when I screenshot that. I was like, man,
they're so bad. I can't tell you how horrific it is. I know I talked about it ad nauseum last week, but I'm going to say it again. I can't tell you how bad the Tennessee Titans are. Like, he has so much time with the ball because the Titans can't hold the ball on offense. Like they can't function. They can't move the ball forward on offense. And it just gives such an advantage to the other offense to have so much time with the ball.
But also, if you're talking about the Colts' success It's their running game. It's not really.
This is also a very misleading screenshot because you can only see like the 31 and 50 and 342 against the Steelers, but he played like ass against the Steelers. So it's really funny. Like this screenshot feels very Daniel Jones coded to protect his image. But I do think it's a smart thing to invest in getting draft picks from a team that might be investing in Daniel Jones because he has shown these flashes in his career. He did it with the Giants too, where they were like, oh shit, Danny Dimes, this is the guy. And then all of a sudden he forgot how to play football. So we'll see when the clock runs out, or if it does or not. Maybe we all look dumb at the end of the Daniel Jones thing. But it's go ahead.
Just one more thing. So I said the Jets had 2 losses on the trade deadline, and I'm surprised we haven't talked about this yet. They didn't move Breece Hall. They didn't move Breece Hall. That's a loss. How? Why? Why are you holding on to Breece Hall? He doesn't want to be there. He made it very clear he doesn't want to be there. He asked to be traded. Did he not?
No, it did not officially came. He did not. Nothing officially came up that said he wanted to be traded.
Right. Sure.
It didn't. Nothing officially came out.
Why keep him? You're not using him. And again, it's the same. It's the same thing as the.
I mean, I actually disagree with you 1,000% on this one, Luke.
Listen, why
keep him? Right. So here's my rebuttal to your overall thinking. Right. The Jets are really hamstrung intellectually. If it was easy to get a game manager quarterback for them, they would have gotten it by now. I gotta be real with you. No, because if it was so easy as just picking up the phone and saying, we want a game manager quarterback, and suddenly the Jets will be good again, I think they would do so. I really do think they would do so. I don't agree with most stuff what he does, but I feel like if it was that easy, they would do it. Knowing that they're probably going into next year with a rookie quarterback, why wouldn't you situate him with a running back 1 and a wide receiver 1? Why wouldn't you give him the best chance to succeed in terms of at least an average offensive line, a running back who is very versatile, and a wide receiver who's very versatile? I think it was very much intended that they said, look, we're going to move defensive players and we're going to work on figuring that out because at the end of the day, the Jets need a quarterback. That's been their issue for over a decade. They've needed a quarterback for so long. If they can hit on quarterback, I feel like they've also seen in the market too, defensive players are acquirable. You can send out 5th and 6th, and they've been rotating defensive tackles. They'll rotate cornerbacks. They'll figure it out. They'll move a 4th for a corner, right? But you can't move a 4th for a quarterback. You need to find the quarterback. So I feel like, and this might be giving the Jets too much credit, because I honestly don't think they're one but I feel like they've got to sit there and realize that they need the priority 1 needs to be getting a quarterback, and you need to get the quarterback in a position to succeed. So whether he's going to be a game manager quarterback or he's going to be a game changer like Daniel Jones, I'll just if he's going to be a game changing quarterback, right? He's still going to need tools to succeed. Like Jared Goff on your end, right? To talk about the Lions is a system quarterback surrounded by elite offensive talent. Jared Goff is not an elite quarterback, but he's surrounded by elite offensive talent. And so, all right, if you know that you're going to have a team where you're going to find out you draft Mendoza or whatever, and you're like, okay, this guy can be an above average game manager with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson. And now next year we can figure out the defense. We're going to have another year of these guys. It might work. Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson are getting older, but they're not old. You can take the year to figure it out. I think it makes sense to do so because if you're looking for a quarterback in hopes that he's just going to be above average, which even if they draft high, that's probably what they're going to be doing because they just, God bless, need a quarterback who isn't going to shit the bed every time he goes out there. They want to give him an option to succeed, and Breece Hall's a very good player. And in some places, I mean, I often feel like you set a price. If that price isn't met, I'm sure they shop Breece Hall. I'm sure they shop Garrett Wilson too.
Oh, no. Garrett Wilson, apparently he was the only untouchable. From what reports said.
Oh yeah, what they said. Yeah, I heard it too.
And the only 2 official reports I heard from people that I think are reputable sources were the Patriots called about Breece Hall, and the Jets basically told him to go screw. And the Chiefs called about Breece Hall. The Chiefs went as far as to offer a 4th round pick. The Jets said they wanted a 3rd, and the Chiefs wouldn't go for that, which I think is completely idiotic. But, Ram, I completely agree with you. If you are going to draft a quarterback this year, having Breece Hall there and Garrett Wilson there is only going to do good things for him. And, obviously, nobody's happy. They have 1 win all year. But you want to know what's going to fix that? Winning. And if you hit with your quarterback, you're going to win. And Breece Hall is going to be happy again. It's all
Right, because the way I look at Luke, like, and using that specific example, right? If we got an extra third round pick next year and we're drafting a rookie quarterback, that's not going to solve shit for us. But like the fact that Brees Hall is there at least gives him an extra safety blanket. And this is without. I also really like Mason Taylor. I haven't talked about this enough as a tight end one, and I think that they've slowly like snuck in guys that could actually be usable pieces. In Mason Taylor is tight end one, Brees Hall RB1, Garrett Wilson wide receiver one. If you draft another offensive lineman, your line holds up, you could have an actual opportunity next year for a quarterback to figure things out for the first time in a long time for the Jets. And I just don't think an extra third round pick makes a difference, because I agree at the end of the day, yeah, he's probably not happy to be here, but winning cures shit, right? If they're winning football next year, he ain't going to want to leave. And if he's not winning next year, I'd find move Brees Hall next year and figure it out again. And we'll be in eternal misery with the Jets as we always are. But I like keeping Hall. I think he's a dynamic player that isn't encompassed by getting a third-round pick. I think he's far better than that, and I'm glad that they held on to him. The defensive players aren't easily replaced either. As somebody who really likes Sauce Gardner, especially because I grew up on Darrelle Revis being the best cornerback in the entirety of the league. And so for me, I was like, it's cool having another shutdown corner with the nickname. I fucking love this. Like, this is at least fun, and Sauce is great, and I wish him the best because I think he's an elite-level cornerback. He's so fucking good. But elite cornerbacks don't win you the games. They make your team better when you have a quarterback, and they got to start from figuring out getting a quarterback. And I think it's fair to give them offensive options, because you don't want to draft your right guy like they have in the past. Draft a guy and not give him the position to succeed and figure it out after. Because there's so many question marks, man.
I don't know. I feel like your arguments are kind of falling on themselves, because you guys keep saying that winning is going to cure, but then you guys say like this team isn't really planning on winning next season, right? If you're going to draft a quarterback, right, like rookie year, you're still trying to figure it out. And I think the other thing too, and I know I said this again, I said this earlier about interior defensive run stopping linemen is. It's the same thing with running backs. They're a dime a dozen, and you can grab one in the third round, and he can be your RB1 the next year. So
he can, but it's also it's a dart throw, and they feel good about Brees Hall. I do think Brees Hall is a top back in this league. Is he going to be replaceable if they have to move him? Sure, but I don't think it's an issue that they didn't move him. What urgency did they have to move him? Just because he didn't like being here?
Just getting the value, right?
His value is not going to be any worse in the offseason.
I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't think there was any urgency to move Brees Hall that they had to do it, or else, like, it's not like he's going to turn into, like, he's going to like lose all of his value in a couple months. I think he still has a lot of value if he decides to move, and if he got hurt, then fuck it. The Jets were cursed anyway in that regards, right? But I don't think that he's of any loss of value going into the offseason that he would be that you had to move him right now. If you're telling me that they couldn't even get the third round pick, like, if the Jets move Brees Hall for a fourth round pick, I'd be losing my fucking mind, because I'm like, that is pathetic, right? So, like, if the best offer they got from a contender like the Chiefs, so that would have been like a late fourth, if that's the best offer they got, right? Now, granted, I agree with you, Luke. If you told me that somebody went out there and said, oh, we're giving you the Quentin Williams package, we're offering you a first and a second, I might have a different answer.
I would drive him to wherever he went myself.
Right. You get what I mean? So, like, if I'm basing it more so off the idea of, like, if there's value in it, value is not a fourth round pick for me. Value is what you got for Quentin Williams, which is an absolute steal because Jerry Jones is an idiot. Like, it's just at the end of like, there's no reason they should be. I think it's hilarious. I cannot stress this enough that you move Micah Parsons for picks and then move picks for a lesser aging lineman. Anyway, so
and sign what is it, like 80-year-old Jadeveon Clowney, like, at the same time to try and fix your defense? Yeah.
He's still in the league. Good for him.
Yeah,
he is. Yeah. He's back. He's back in. He's with the Cowboys.
He's on his 10th team now.
Wow.
God.
Remember when he was an elite defensive talent?
I mean, he is still on like a one snap basis. To use the old Brett Batty adage. He, on a one-snap basis, Jadeveon Clowney is still an elite-level player.
I don't even know if that's
true. No. On a one-snap basis, he is like the second best edge rusher on the Cowboys.
That's what I'm talking about. Granted, low standard to clear, but, it's not wrong. Did anything happen in Giants World or Rangers World that I need to discuss before we wrap up for the night? Or
Yeah, the Rangers suck again.
Rangers suck. Jackson Dart is a dude. That's it.
Jackson Dart is a dude. I feel so bad that he is still surviving without elite talent in Malik Neighbors and at least a bowling ball of a guy in Cam Scattaboo who was fun. So
God rest his soul.
God rest his ankle. But I hope that he.
If any, it killed my fantasy team. But if anything, if you want to talk about anything with the Giants, can we talk about how they're low key really good at building quarterbacks? They squeezed a playoff win out of Daniel Jones. They tricked the world into thinking Italians could play football for a little bit. And Jackson Dart
is that Tommy DeVito hate? I swear to God, how dare you?
No, what do you mean?
It's self-Italian hate.
It's self-Italian hate, but also it's also Tommy DeVito hate. That guy was not good. Remember when they played the Jets and they were afraid to have him throw the ball? I remember that was fun.
That was one of the worst football games I'd ever seen. By the way,
no, it was great because the Jets won.
It was absolutely disgusting.
Who was the quarterback for the Jets in that game?
They had 3 different people throw a pass, so that's a loaded question.
I don't even want to think about that game, but yes, the Giants are actually pretty. I mean, Jackson Dart's also. There was a lot of people. I mean, Luke, one of the forefronts, is saying that he liked the Giants draft, and he was right. I mean, a lot of people said, look, Jackson Dart's actually an underrated quarterback prospect coming into this draft. The Giants swung on him. It worked so far. I mean, he looks like he's the type of guy that could play football for a bit and have a lot of fun and lead that team to success. So they're going to hang out and figure it out. I am going to be super interested come draft season for the Giants. We were having that discussion a little bit ago, you and I, about like what direction they go in. I'm going to be interested to see what they do, whether they stick to their pick, take another playmaker, if they move down, amass more picks. Super interested, but they have options, which the Jets do not. The Jets had to find quarterback or bust, or else we should just like kind of eradicate them as an organization, I think. At what point do you start at what point do you relegate the Jets and just take like one of those like random teams like the Argonauts or like one of those XFL teams or the lingerie leagues and like just bring them up to the NFL at this point? I think
the Arena Football League, please.
I'm okay with relegating the Jets if they don't get a quarterback next year.
Give me the Langley Falls Bazooka Sharks. Like that's the team I want in the NFL.
I love a Bazooka Shark.
That's a sick name.
I'm a big Bazooka Shark fan.
But if we've got nothing else on terms of the sports world stuff, I want to swing in the last takes. I have 2 of them. One a lot more playful than the other one. So I'm going to lead off because I have 2 things I want to say. I found out that the owner of the solid gold toilet called America is Steve Cohen. And so Sotheby's is auctioning a solid gold toilet, a sculpture by an Italian artist called America. It's set for auction in November 18th in New York. The owner is Stephen Cohen, owner of the Mets and an art patron. And I believe that the starting bid is, don't quote me, going for about $10 million. So I just feel like he's embezzling funds into the Mets. I think it's really tough that times are so hard that an owner has to sell his $10 million solid gold toilet to be able to finance the Mets. The man's dedication to the team, really unmatched, because what other owner could you think that would be selling a solid gold $10 million sculpture just to be able to help finance the Mets more? I can't think of anyone.
It was a sculpture. Really. It wasn't a functional toilet.
I'm 90% sure it was merely a sculpture and not a functional toilet.
That's just a
but no, much like the Mets, they don't work. But I mentioned the guys that didn't want to talk about something because I thought it was rough, and it's just something that I wanted to discuss because it kind of hit me close to my heart. That I saw that the Cowboys suffered a loss in terms of a player, a 24-year-old player, and it kind of broke my heart because like I just felt bad about the whole thing. That the idea that my understanding of it is that he committed suicide. And so I wanted to just throw this up there because I talk about this a lot, but like so Nealon was, I think, 24 and he just had his first career touchdown as a defensive player. And I want to talk for a second about the fact that as somebody who deals with depression and has dealt with depression for a long time, it might be confusing to some people on the outside where you're like, he signed with the Cowboys. He just had his first touchdown. Like he's got a girlfriend. Like life is pretty fulfilling for this guy. One of the things that isn't often talked about with depression is the fact that sometimes you hit what you think is a peak and like a special moment. And that moment isn't as fulfilling as you want it to be. And you kind of set your life on the idea of, if I get to this point, I'm going to feel better, that it won't have me in such a stranglehold and it won't really affect me the way that it does. And when you get to that kind of fabricated milestone, the idea of like, if I do this, I'll be fine. And you do it and you realize that you wake up the next day and it doesn't feel any more fulfilling, that the darkness is still there. It can cause you to do bad things. And all intents and my understanding here is that he died from a self-inflicted gun wound because he was struggling with mental health. Even a guy who was signed to a national football team and was playing out his dreams was still struggling. And so I think it's important. This isn't just like a male mental health crisis thing. It's also just like a mental health crisis thing. Do reach out to people. Do reach out to hotlines. Reach out to your friends. Say something, because this is a 24-year-old guy playing football. And it gets publicity because of the fact that he's a 24-year-old guy playing football for the Dallas Cowboys. But there are hundreds of people every day who are under the same type of pressure. And suicide and depression is their entirety of their existence. And it won't get any publicity because of the fact that they don't play football on a national scale. And you don't realize until you're gone, and I don't know what the afterlife is or isn't. So I don't know if those people ever get to realize the impact they had on other people's lives until they're gone. And so I feel for his family and the people who are remaining for him. And I feel for anyone who's out there struggling. If it's something that you're dealing with, speak to somebody, because nobody wants to see another headline about a 24-year-old killing themselves, regardless of who they are, what they do, or anything that they represent. Nobody wants to see them die for things that could have been prevented. And I felt really bad about that when I read it, because this isn't even a guy of a team that I follow, right? But it's sad. And I wanted to at least take a moment to say that, even if it's to the few people who are listening, that it's important to speak up about how you feel. And I feel bad for the organization, his family, his surviving ex-partner. I wish them all well. I hope he rests in peace and finds the peace that he was seeking. You guys don't have to follow up if you want about anything else. I just want to get it off my chest, because it sucks. I think it's like I woke up and I read this thing and I'm like, yeah, it's 24, and then it's like self-inflicted gun wound. I'm like, that's heavy. And I've lost people to suicide before. And so it's hard, because you see these type of things, and it's bigger than sports in that way. Yeah, he's not even a New York guy or anything like that. I just feel for the team. Like, I saw they took a moment of silence before the game today to honor him, and I appreciate those little things. It's just about all we can do. Yeah. And it's rough.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because it was I don't know if y'all remember a couple of years ago, Domingo Herman, right? And I know he's had issues with domestic violence, and he sort of made his way back in the MLB. He pitched, I can't remember, it was no hitter, a perfect game in Oakland, and 2-3 weeks later he's in rehab for alcohol addiction, right? And it's just like you said, Ram. The human side of sports is a lot of the time missed, right? Like, you think about these guys living out their dreams, and so they must be living these high and mighty lives, but some still struggle, right? And that exists in your everyday lives as well too. I mean, there are people that you might think are so successful or are doing well, but inside they're not, right? And it's just like Ram said. I mean, reach out to a friend if you haven't heard from them. If you're feeling that way, reach out to a friend. And hopefully they're good friends like us, and they're going to give you shit, and they're going to make you laugh, and they're going to be there for you in the right kind of way. So no, I think it's a great point, Ram. And I guess my final point tonight is, thank you to the both of y'all. Thank you all for being friends with me, for doing the show with me. Thank you to Ash for giving us given the opportunity to talk on a podcast. I'm so fortunate, not only to do the show with you guys, but talk with y'all almost every day, and share one of the coolest sports moments I've ever been a part of. I know I mentioned it earlier in the show, but I think about that a lot. Like, I think about being there for Pete Alonso's home run with you guys, and that's like, I'm not even a Mets fan, and that's like one of the coolest things ever. So thank you to both y'all.
On what these guys said, like, I remember a couple years ago when AJ Brown made public some of the stuff he was dealing with. And it was cool to see him celebrated for having the bravery to do that, because it is a tough thing to do, and obviously it's an absolute shame what happened today. And if you have feelings like that, or just reach out. Ram put the numbers out there. Hopefully you took a look at them, talk to somebody. You do matter. Even if it's about things like stupid, dumb sports don't matter. You matter. So if you need help, get help. It's kind of hard to have a final point off that. So I'll, and again, Luke, that was really cool being there for Brett Beatty's home run all together. But I guess my final point, I'll just leave it at, if you weren't with the Jets during the rebuild, don't be with us during the rebuild.
I think we're an internal rebuild, actually. I think it's just an eternal. I once told somebody that I don't think that hell exists. I think that it's right here, and it's been watching the New York Jets for the last 15 to 20 years. I can't think of anything more.
I don't know how it could be worse. So yeah.
You could be a Detroit Lions fan, like.
Shut up! You have
Jared Goff.
Can I mute him? Can I mute him? I can mute him, actually. I can mute him. That's beautiful.
You and your 2 playoff wins. I don't want to hear shit.
Speaking for the now muted Luke and myself and Peter, of course, thank you all for joining us once again. We will see you again in a week, as always, as Luke puts up the silent heart. I very much appreciate it.
Hopefully on Wednesday.
Yes, hopefully on Wednesday. Hopefully I'll be able to come back on Wednesday and do the regular hours. For anyone joining us tonight, thank you for leaving Thursday Night Football and watching us. I think we're a little more entertaining.
Yeah.
But it was a bad game. So we'll see you next week on Wednesday, most likely at 10:30 during our normal timings. Again, thebestdamnsports.com. You can find us there, or the link is to our YouTube. We do have a Twitter, The Best Damn Sports. You can follow us, give us suggestions, reach out to us. We're more than happy to listen to what you guys have to say if there's something you want us to cover. On that note, we're going to sign off for the night. You all take care. Have a good rest of your evening and be safe.